to. I've just taken a film called Regenerating Australia, right around the country to 62 towns, and we based it on a 4-month listening campaign, interviews with a really diverse group of Australians. And the number one thing we heard was that people were sick of having top-down decisions made about their regions. They were sick of not having a say when they understand the complexity and the nuance of their particular place and what needs to be done in their particular place. So given we've seen the fragility of this global system, we know it was designed in a period of very stable environment. We're now moving into a much more unpredictable environment. We really need to think about how we do empower people at the local level, localise without tipping into nationalism, but really empower them with energy sovereignty, food sovereignty, the products they make. It really is the only way forward. How we get them to coordinate and link and stay connected to each other, but also empower them in their communities. That's the number one thing that came through in our interviews. And we've had so many solutions submitted off the back of this film of people developing their own community ideas, their own community solutions, and they're phenomenal because people understand what needs to happen and the values of their unique place. And they're all different. Every single town has its own set of values. So why not empower them to make the decisions that are right for their area? Cheers.
Thank you. So this is really a pretty powerful message. And regeneration is not only about restoring ecosystems, obviously, but really regenerating social, environmental, and economic life. And regeneration really shows us the way of how can we really achieve SDGs and the goal and the targets related to SDGs. And it provides a great platform for incorporating and using the power and leveraging the power of the very local values that are so diverse across the world. And I think Indonesia is, probably one of the best places to show how diversity can also unite. And regeneration is really a very good guide of how. And this is, I think, very important because often, at least in my work, I have met people who are really passionate about SDGs, are really passionate about sustainability, but are not so sure about how can we get there. And I think, regeneration really offers that clear path and links to the values and how to use them, the diversity of local values for unity also. And we embrace that very much in V20. And we also have a history of already in our short life of using and leveraging local values. And Marisa and Stefano, can I ask you to tell us a bit more about that? What you were the co-chairs of Values 20 last year. What did you do? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, for inviting us to this wonderful event. So let me begin to answer your question, Chris, by sharing that during the V20 summit last October in Rome, we launched in Italy the Entrepreneurship Sports Generation. This is a great international project to select and promote startups through a competitive mechanism, like a large tournament made entirely online. This year, V20 will launch this competition in Indonesia too for the first time. So Indonesia will join the other 160 countries that are already part of it, including India, the country from which this competition started, thanks to its creator, Mr. Shiv Khemka, one of the V20 founders and the executive chairman of the Global Education and Leadership Foundation. Among the characteristics to be selected for this competition, the startups which participate must demonstrate their awareness regarding the impact that their company has in terms of sustainability. They need to explain how they intend to contribute to the advancement of the 17 sustainable goals through their people, products, services, partnerships, and supply chain. Right now, Both in Indonesia and in Italy, we are in the process of selecting the startups that will complete and go to the national finals in September. The winners of the national level will then attend the Confederation finals in October, that is Europe for Italy and Asia for Indonesia. And the winners of this level will go to the global finals in December. As you can see, this project is intended as a global, national, and local human architecture. Our partnership ecosystems will promote and support active community engagement to stimulate conscious entrepreneurship at scale. In fact, this is an initiative that also promotes the creation of a network of collaboration at national and regional levels, with corporations which sustain startups in different ways, governments, institutions, academia, incubators, investors, and media. As Damon explained, we too strongly believe that getting to sustainability is possible if communities are empowered so that they can find local solutions while they are interconnected also to global communities. It becomes therefore clear why it is essential that at every level, global, institutional, national, and individual level, we become increasingly aware of what each stakeholder believes in, the values on which we make our decisions, inform and determine the impact we have not only on our businesses, on the field in which we operate, but also on the whole world. Now, Stefano, could you please describe the wider context in which the competition among innovative startups was launched last year?
Sure, Marisa. So let me zoom out for a moment to share what happened in 2021 when we were co-chairing G20 links to some of the key concepts we've been talking about so far in this panel. So as we know, 2021 was the second year humanity had to deal with the COVID-19, which was really an unpredicted, invisible threat that has disrupted the lives of billions of people, urging institutions and communities to face a sanitary emergency that has impacted socioeconomic relationships and which generated tragic outcomes all over the world. The challenges posed by COVID-19 have been addressed by mobilizing intellectual and financial resources that are highlighted really how different backgrounds can work together for common objectives. We believe that coordinated cooperation like this was possible because the work community is rooted in values, universal values that allowed, in this case, a swift response to this unexpected tragic global challenge. Now, could governments, institutions, and communities do better and be more effective in dealing with this crisis? Well, quite certainly so. However, to be fair, during 2021, we witnessed several examples of what can happen when actions are driven by some of these universal values and the positive impact this can have. Let's take value of sharing, for example, which concerns the joint use of tangible and non-tangible resources. There are lots of examples of how countries, institutions, local communities, the civil society, individuals came together around this value in the past 2 years, made decisions, and took actions that demonstrated a clear intent to help each other and the ability to play a non-zero-sum game for the greater good. We could mention global data sharing to contain and manage the diffusion of the virus, for example, sharing of resources between governments. In my hometown, during the hardest moments, people started to share food, masks, and other goods, something unseen before. And I'm sure all of us here could share amazing stories like this, stories of the unbelievable that becomes real because people understand that even though we are all different, values can really unite us. And there is no doubt that although the link with the SDGs was not necessarily explicit in this case, the concerted action driven by the value of sharing produced a direct contribution to good health and well-being and to reduce inequalities, two of the SDGs as we know. And that to me raises a very important question of how much more impactful we could be if we were a little bit more explicit and intentional in this process. Now, I picked the value of sharing since in 2021, it was in fact one of the key driving values, that were identified to support the three priorities set by the Italian G20 presidency, which were people, planet, and prosperity. The other two values that we focused on in 2021 were integrity and solidarity. We are convinced that translating values into actions remains a fundamental thing to address global issues before the international community, including those linked with the SDGs. And as V20, we strongly support the need to continue the promotion of multilateral debates and decisions within the value framework, which blends our cultural heritages, institutional systems, and global aspirations for a world in which, in fact, no one is left behind wherever we live. So, Chris, back on to you.
Thank you. So it really shows that, again, it's very aligned with what we heard from Diamond, that empowering communities and bringing these local values and putting them together with the universal values, like sharing, what Stefano said, is really so powerful across the world. And another thing is V20 is not only about policy advice, it's not only about constructing and advising working values-based policy, but it is also about action and converting words into action. We've seen that in Italy, and we are continuing it here in Indonesia. So, Alisa, can you tell us a bit more about what we are doing this year?
Okay. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for all the speakers before me. Interesting. Very interesting topic. Value is a very interesting topic. And I'm sorry, Chris, I'm going to just go off a little bit. I just remember when talking about how to bring traditional values or local values, local wisdom into a bigger value system, I remember one principle that we believe in the traditional Islamic community in Indonesia. It's called, Dr. Asif, please correct me if I'm wrong. Al-mukhafadha ala qadimis soli wa ahdu bil jadidil aslah. If we have a tradition, a good tradition, we should keep it, but we should not be afraid to embrace modernity if it brings better to community. So when we talk about values, what we need to do right now is aligning, realigning, and always evolving the values that we are currently employing to govern our lives.
Yep.
So the question after Italy, the V20 2022 Indonesian presidency team, with the help, of course, with the co-founders and the international communities, we are thinking on how to convert this ideation, conversations, into real actions.
Yep.
That's the challenge, and that is why this is the focus of our work in 2022. We know that our complex world is like Bu Fifi mentioned, it's interrelated, interlinked, and this is a very complex one. There is no single factor to any context, and that is why we really need to understand that the system, this complex system, would largely determined by the mental models of the actors of the system, which is not single actor. That is why we need to bring all these actors of the system to make sure that we can comprehend, to develop a comprehensive values that would guide us into the future that we want in 2030 in regards to SDGs. So if we employ system thinking to talk about our system, then we would need to address the mental models of the actors and these mental models is, of course, will be founded on the values, whether the values are clear values or irrelevant values for the common context, or whether we need to transform our values. That's the question. Like, for example, No One Left Behind is a mental model based on the values of inclusiveness and justice.
Yep.
Right? So in 2022, the V20 team is employing sustainability compass to make sure that we cover 4 dimensions that we feel extremely important to the future of the world. We know compass. Compass is about what's north, west, south, east. So north, we exchange that into nature. W is for welfare. S is for well-being, sorry, well-being. S is for society, and E is for economy. We believe that these 4 dimensions are most urgent and important dimensions that we need to address and to deep dive on the values so that we can move forward to a better world. And these four compasses for what is the
dimensions?
English word for the dimensions
Directions, yeah.
is of course aligned with SDGs goals, the 17 SDGs goals, and also the principles, the pillars of SDGs. The way we do the sustainable compass is by engaging stakeholders and actors from these 4 dimensions, bringing them together to collaborate. This is one of the pillars of SDGs, partnership, and of course one of the goals. Our hope is to bring these experts from different backgrounds, from global landscape, to work together on the values for well-being, the values on taking care of nature, the values in society that we want to develop in society, and the values in economic system. Hopefully, by bringing all these collaborators together, we will come up with a true and tested and effective, comprehensive, workable values that will lead us to a better future. And hopefully, when we finish the communique, we will present that communique to the head of states of G20, and hoping that those values will be implemented in the policies that they're making. This is what we're doing right now. I know this is very huge and ambitious, but I think with the engagement of so many people, so many experts, we're hoping
I very
to
much
contribute.
That's great. I really agree. And it doesn't matter that it's huge. Actually, it should be huge because we are facing huge challenges that we have never seen.
Yeah.
So, the vision and the huge goals are something we definitely should pursue, and they should not scare us. And what you say, I think it's great to see also, because we talk a lot about collaborations and we talk a lot about partnerships and working together, but indeed, at the end of the day, it doesn't always work, and people don't know how to do that. And SDG 17 is probably a good example of that, where it's a collaboration, but it's probably the least addressed, just because it's so difficult to do. So it's great to hear that V20 is providing a tool for that.
Yes, because talking about values are always so, sometimes it gets so abstract, and how to put that into action. But we have an example from Ibu Alexandra, yeah?
Yes.
How to put values into a business institution. Hopefully, if we can do that in business, then we can do that in society, especially for achieving the sustainable development goals.
Yes, and another thing is the systems perspective.
Yes.
Yes, because everything, and again, this is something we often hear, everything is interconnected. We've seen the graph that was like a massive spider webs together, right, when we connect all the targets. And it's so difficult to enact this and really act upon this. But again, there is a clear path here with, using values as building, and realizing that they are actually building blocks of the mental models that the actors of the system have. And through these values, we can preserve, change, and combine as we need to address all the challenges that we are facing. And I think this is really very, very important point and an incredible value that Values 20 offers, right? So that's really fantastic. So, summarizing what you've said and what we've heard from other people, from all other panelists and our guides, really, I would say V20 is like a gelling agent, right? That really provides tools and perspective and frameworks for bringing and knowing how to bring different actors together and how to see the different systems and links between the different systems and act upon them. Something that is really very, very difficult to do otherwise, right? So that's the core thing, and it is converting also words into action in that way, and is relevant for every aspect of really of G20.
Yeah. Can I add something to this?
Of course.
I just remember this morning my mentor used to say that the longest distance to a long-term goal is the shortcut. We face many challenges in this world because we're taking too much shortcuts, and we need to go back to our fundamental values because that is the way to sustainability.
I very much agree, and I would just add one last bit to it, which is time frame.
Time frame.
Yes, and that's a lot of, and I think a lot of values have time frame embedded in them. And another issue, very, very serious and universal issue that we have, is that we have become extremely short-sighted. So, and values will help us elongate the time frame that we use for decision making. And if we only achieve these, we are really well advanced on achieving SDGs, and if we combine it with the path of regeneration, it's even more powerful. So, terima kasih. I think
Terima kasih, Pak Chris.
we will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Pak Chris, Ibu Alisa, kami persilakan kembali ke tempat duduk. Sorry for the glitch. Can we have another round of applause for my amazing speakers? Too much shortcut, but okay for short people, right, Bu Alisa? Yes, to small people. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue our event today. After enjoying a very insightful panel discussion, we are now going to be invited to do a self-check, which will be led by Diki Herlambang. Mas Diki Herlambang is an Associate Director with Daya Dimensi Indonesia. Also by Dr. Asif Chowdhury, Corporate Values Officer from Arawat Group, and also accompanied by me. So let's welcome the gentlemen on stage. Mas Diki Herlambang and Dr. Asif, please join me on stage. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Alhamdulillah, fantastic.
So good? Good. After the coffee break that everyone is enjoying right now. So, for this session, we're going to ask everyone to do a self-check. What does it mean, Mas Diki?
Can you hear the... I'm not sure this is... is it? Okay. Oh. Self-check. Still not... Oh.
That's a self-check.
That's self-check.
Self-check is actually trying to look at the values. I mean, we've been discussing about values since this after lunch. And remembering my interactions with some of my clients, I quote his real quotes, his real words. Dick, I think value is important and necessary to talk about. But also I think value is a 30,000 feet above the ground topic. Enlighten me, please. Yes, for many people talking about values, you really need to get to the basic first. How you understand values, where values come from, how it can become so much powerful for everything that we do. So that's self-check. Trying to understand what it is, where it is, and why it is important.
Okay, so what are we going to do today as a group to do this self-check?
All right. First, understanding the values itself. Second, I'm going to ask this room to share their own stories to each other. At the same time, on the online room, Dr. Asif and Melissa will lead the session, because what I would like you to do in this room is not able to be done online. Diet is not online. So online will have their own set of questions, pretty much the same questions, different interactions, just that. And we will go back here together in the main room for the brief.
Great. So we'll be separated for about 20 minutes?
Yeah.
10 or 20 minutes, you think?
I will have 5 minutes to revisit what value is. Then we will have our diet for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes to
Conclusion.
So yeah, 10 minutes lah.
All right. So, Dr. Asif, shall we go to our online participants? Enjoy your session with Mas Diki. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
To the left. We go to the left, Dr. Asif.
Actually, you can stay here just for the first.
We leave you with a look back at the highlights of a remarkable decade that has changed Australia forever.
The 2020s began in extraordinary fashion.
Work more regionally.
More work, more opportunity.
Solar and batteries would be ideal.
And build a sustainable society.
Today marked the first time that Australia has run on 90% renewable energy for an entire month.
That makes me feel really, really happy.
The government today announced it will follow the lead of other countries and live stream key policy discussions.
I think it's good. We need transparency.
Australians are now seeking out Australian-made and owned products. The ripple effect is that we are now seeing healthy farmers.
There's nothing like endangered animals in a landscape that's coming back to life to give all Australians a real heartbeat.
We can deal better with the world when we're connected to nature. It's been amazing to see the change that's happened from the closure of the power stations to the renewable energy zones. The young people are starting to stay and find work.
This family right now are earning cash because their electricity service provider are paying them to use the battery in this ute as storage for the grid.
In a decade full of transition and tragedy, many Australians are finding renewed purpose in the regeneration of our social and ecosystems. Australians are starting to feel more secure.
This is a landmark day for our country.
A day like this means that all of this work has actually meant something.
Respect is back and our pride is back. Respecting the environment. From that gives us the strength to look to a brighter future.
If not me, who? If not now, when do we do it? It's never too late to stand up and take action together.
and share the brief. I have one question. Was it difficult?
Terima kasih Pak Diki. Dr. Asif asked me to choose top 3 from the 60 values on the vision board. My top 3 was wealth, wealth, and wealth. I chose wealth 3 times. Dr. Asif said, very materialistic. And I said, no, I'm just being realistic. Right? Right, Dr. Asif? Would you like to tell our audience here the result of our online session?
Yes, it's a fantastic experience for the last 10 or 15 minutes. We had lots of versatile participants all across the globe from different professions, different age groups, and also we are very much appreciating about their eagerness and participation indeed. So whenever we explain them about the value they would like to correlate or they can correlate with, we inform them value is just like a mirror. Put yourself in front of it and see how do you feel, how far you can connect. Just identify yourself, who you are. Then they've tried to come up with their 3 values that they can reason it, and then we have gone through the cloud processing, and we have found a couple of them that they have high frequency. And one of them is humanity, rightly so, why not? And also another one I can share with you from that list is love. And the third one I can just pick it up from their list is compassion. So indeed, after the COVID-19 situation, humanity, it's all about humanity, it's all about humanity, and we can't just win any sort of challenges, any sort of obstacles with love. We need to love each other to be loved as well. We need to show our gesture of humanity for the sake of humanity indeed, and this is the time for the compassionate, the journey to connect with. So it's a very good experience in terms of the individual values level that we came up with the last 10 or 15 minutes. And if I just can share with you for the corporate level that, we have worked since 2014 from the Reward for Building Values company, and we have gone through the benchmarking, more than 15,000 corporates in the world. Surprisingly and interestingly also, one of their common core value is integrity. And it's rightly so. That means integrity in your business, once you are practicing as a value, that's going to accelerate your journey indeed. Thirdly, I'm just going to give you another reference in the national level or the country level. For example, recently we came up with the research work joint commission of Rwanda and also University of Western Australia. We have found the G20 member countries have 212 national values. And whenever we go through the common one, we found democracy is one of the top listed one. And what's that democracy is all about? It's all about of the people, by the people, for the people. Again, it's people-centric. So we can correlate that it's very important time to engage our people, utilize our older policies for the G20 or even entire world for the people and for the humanity. So it was a good experience indeed during the organization.
Humanity. All right. right. Thank you, Dr. Asif.
So this is the...
This is the result
Okay.
of the polling, the Mentimeter meter. Okay, Mas Diki, would you like to add something to that?
Not to the polling, but is there anyone here, just one, who would like to share? It can be about your experience, sharing your personal stories, or you can share your personal stories if you want. Anyone would like to share to the main room with everyone else? No?
Is there any prize to it?
Do you have any prize for that? I don't.
I have free candies.
Okay. No, it's okay. Now back to Melissa.
Okay. All right. Now, after the self-check, we would like to do an assessment. Can we please show the QR code on screen? I'm going to invite everyone to scan this QR code. And together we will do this assessment, right? Okay, hold on. How many questions will there be in the assessment?
There is only, you need to choose 10 of your most important values to you. There is nothing else.
Oh.
And you will have your report after that.
I see. I would like to take the test too. Okay.
There's a personal assessment, right?
Yes, personal assessment, that's right. So everyone will have to do their own personal assessment by answering top 10 values that is most important to you.
It's called PVA.
Okay, here it is.
This is it. So everyone, offline and online, you can scan, I need to move probably. You can scan the QR code and take the value assessment. This is from Barrett Value Center. After you understand what value is, this could be a next step for you. You choose what is important to you.
So just before leaving and allowing you for the personal value assessment, thank you all of you. And let us have the takeaway from today's event that let us be committed with the values journey. Let us go for V to V, values to vision. Let our vision driven by our valuable values. Let us be committed. Let us work together to make things better. Let us recover stronger and better for the sake of humanity, for the sake of people, and for the sake of the better world. So again, let's start the journey with V to V, values to vision.
Love the message. Thank you, Dr. Asif. You may please return to your seat. Mas Diki, kita kembali ke tempat duduk juga sambil menunggu hasilnya, atau kita mau baca saja? Boleh kita kembali ke tempat duduk ya? Baik, terima kasih Mas Diki dan Dr. Asif buat sesinya. So ladies and gentlemen, you can continue the personal assessment by scanning the QR code on the screen, and then you will directly get your results afterwards. Okay. After this, we will continue our sessions. So I'm just going to give you a couple more minutes to do the personal assessment. And I will be back to continue our event. Enjoy.
Ada yang udah selesai? Do not forget to put your email because the report will be sent to that email. Ada yang udah dapat reportnya? Has anyone get their reports? Not yet? Because I think we kind of offer the time. So imagine 50,436 people taking this report in about, what, 5 months? So now we have Indonesian level or national level value assessment. Imagine that. That's what Nilai did. Okay, just to make the sessions quicker, I know some of you haven't done the survey or haven't finished the survey or haven't received the report, but essentially the report is self-explanatory. So when you get the report, you will have your personal values and awareness explanation, why is it like that, and then the results. So always the theoretical introduction first, then your results. Then from those results, pay attention to those with white circle, and pay attention to those with no results. I mean, there are 7 levels. Each levels should be balanced. You should have values from level 1 to level 7. That doesn't mean if you have only level 5 and up, it's bad. No. It means the level below, you have no longer needs for that. Can mean 2 things. 1, there is no needs for that. Or 2, blind spot. So you can ask yourself, if it's a blind spot, what could still be the needs for me? Is it in another form? So read your report very carefully. It can help you navigate your next level of interactions, of leadership, of being human. And the next part is self-development. The self-reflection is there. The next steps is there. So like I said, the report is self-explanatory. You could always reach the Nilai team if you have questions. We will be glad to help you with that, with your reports. So without further ado, thank you everyone. Thank you for sharing the stories among you. Thank you for the openness. Thank you for being vulnerable. That is the first step to understand your value. Ibu Melissa, back to you.
Terima kasih, Pak Diki. You may please return to your seat. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue our event. We will hear from another co-founder of V20 who flew all the way from UK to be with us today. She is also the V20 2022 Lead of Value Steering Committee, and today she will share with us the G20 institutional value. Ladies and gentlemen, please give the warmest welcome to Pamela Doherty.
Hello, everybody. And from wherever you're joining us from today, you're very, very welcome. It gives me great pleasure and privilege to present the initial outputs of a special V20 project this year on behalf of the V20 founding group, Values of the G20. How can we become a more effective global community in creating a better world for all? The G20 has become a globally recognized and respected institution, recognized for cooperation across nations and for driving global prosperity. Everything G20 does is driven by values, driven by needs, and the focus of its attention is increasingly on broader needs of populations and communities, both within and beyond its physical boundaries. The agenda this year, led by Indonesia, is inspiring, it's clear, and it's focused on topics that all need collaboration, they all need urgency, and they all need responsibility. The theme for global health architecture opens up with the path to global recovery requires stronger collective cooperation. Digital transformation talks about securing common prosperity in a digital age. Transforming energy transition highlights the urgent need to accelerate the transition to cleaner energy sources. The global challenges we face today are increasing in number and in complexity. How can we work together more effectively to solve them together? We observe an opportunity to accelerate the work of the G20, to be more values aware, to raise the consciousness of values and be more deliberate in the way in which G20 leads with values. This means operating with the same mechanisms and informality as now, but to do business in an environment that brings greater clarity on common values, on unique values, and values of important difference. All of this to create the conditions for a deeper human connection, to deliver economic prosperity, to promote good governance, and to enable good quality of life for all. Today I'll be talking about how this can be achieved. What I have to say will resonate with any leader who is trying to make a difference through unlocking the potential of a team or organisation. So why are values so critical for the G20 in their role in policy making? To express the case for being more values-driven, I'd first of all like to talk about 3 types of cooperation. Firstly, decision alignment, then interest alignment, and thirdly, values alignment. The first, most basic form of cooperation is working together, aligned on the basis of the decisions and policies you each wish to achieve to reduce conflict. Such a world results in a more competitive environment where we each fight to implement the decisions and policies that suit us. An evolution of this way of thinking is to move on to the next type of cooperation, to try to understand and align our interests too, resulting in better understanding and giving us the ability to cooperate more effectively. Therefore, compromise becomes easier. But with our world today, we are facing challenges unlike before. We are ever more connected, and the world is more a ship than it has ever been, but a ship without a captain. This makes forums like the G20 critical in facilitating cooperation to meet the challenges we are facing, which are both greater and more numerous than before. It is no longer sufficient to align only our individual decisions or to align our respective interests. We have to go deeper and understand our and each other's motivations. Of course, our motivations already exist, but often they are hidden or only partly on show, leaving others to make assumptions, draw conclusions, or to similarly not present their full selves to a situation. Ultimately, this means we don't give ourselves the best chance of success. We only partly deliver what's possible. This is where values come in, the third type of cooperation. Values underlie and connect everything we do. Our values, the things we hold most dear, are the most fundamental drivers of our motivations. Our values are so core to us, it's like how we breathe. So when we come together to create something as a group of people, through a team or an organisation, we bring our values with us. Collectively, that can be extremely powerful, and it takes vulnerable leadership to achieve the full potential of that team. Values are always there, yet sometimes we don't acknowledge them consciously. If we don't acknowledge, measure, understand, and discuss our values and where they align and misalign, we are not getting the full picture. We get stuck in compete and compromise spaces rather than focusing on collaborating to create new and better solutions to solve our biggest challenges. So how can G20 become more values aware? I will share a vision of what that could be. The nations that make up the G20 are separate countries with boundaries, cultures, histories, and ambitions. Take Indonesia as an example. It's a beautiful, colourful, diverse nation. It consists of over 17,000 islands. It has 700 languages and over 1,300 ethnic groups. The diverse Indonesian people have a shared identity, demonstrated with the motto, unity in diversity, many yet one. In 2020, Indonesia carried out a national values assessment to understand its people through values. We saw some of that earlier in the session. The number one value in Indonesia is gotong royong, the value of mutual assistance, for which these images show. It is collective kindness. It is the spirit of cooperation. It's the understanding of nuanced values like gotong royong that are vital in enabling people to connect together from different nations and cultures. But what makes G20 work is government leaders taking responsibility and action for the benefit of all mankind. So a very human experience within a physical and cultural dynamic. If we accept that there are unique differences across the globe, and yet the G20 is all about collaboration, I suggest that being more values-driven will enable a much deeper level of human connection, of innovation, and of impact. Imagine the impacts of agreeing a common set of values that would guide interactions and decision-making, as well as respectfully knowing and even celebrating cultural and national differences. Organisations and teams tackle this question all of the time. How to create a culture and level of values understanding across the people involved in a particular system and working towards a shared mission. Teams and organisations regularly tackle the question of mission alignment, values alignment, and values awareness. Mission alignment is where teams are aligned on a clear vision or set of goals, creating unity and cohesion, with everyone working towards the same aims. Values awareness is where there is a clear level of awareness for both individual and collective values, where consciousness of what's important is high. Values alignment goes one step further, as the team uses that awareness to align on a common set of values that directly help achieve the team's mission. This is a purposeful and powerful step and needs constant attention. I'll bring this to life with an example of the business that I lead, Axia Origin. Our purpose as an organisation directly reflects our own values to help create a more prosperous and resilient world. When starting our business, we used a number of methods to develop a deeper understanding of each other, including creating a string wall, and you can see the image of this on the screen. Each piece of coloured string represents a different person in the team and maps their answers to a range of questions about who they are. This exercise helped us see and celebrate what we have in common and where we are individually very different. We have 3 core values that guide our decisions every day: authenticity, transparency, and generosity. There are many interventions and measurement systems available to achieve this level of awareness and this level of alignment. The next phase of this project will be to produce a written output that will share information on the various tools and methods for teams, organisations, and even nations to use. In the meantime, we've made a start to support the G20 to progress this conversation for being more values aware themselves. The G20 asked us a question. They asked us to provide them with insights about their values as an institution. I'd like to start by saying that the starting point is strong. The values that the fact that G20 has evolved to focus on the breadth of issues far beyond the initial topic of economic stability, and to see the way progress is being made far beyond that original priority to multiple topics in the backdrop of many local and global challenges, tells me that the system of G20 is strong, it's respected and effective. The spirit in which this presentation is made is to express an opportunity for G20 to be more effective, to accelerate progress, and be stronger when issues arise that could create division. We have carried out analysis of the G20, its focus and expressed values, through analysing the key output each year, the G20 declarations from 2008 to date. We've approached this analysis in two different ways. Understanding what's important to G20 through the lens of the SDGs, and secondly, we identified values expressed through the declarations year on year. We used different analytical methods for each of these questions. For the SDG analysis, we used natural language processing to find the words that are relevant to our analysis of values and filter out those that were not. We then used word pairings to ensure meaning was interpreted correctly. Those word pairings were then assigned and mapped to an SDG. All of the G20 declarations were then analysed using these same set of rules to provide a year-on-year understanding of where the focus, where the energy was through the discussions, commitments and actions taken. We took a more qualitative approach to assessing expressed values, what I would call a literature review, with each declaration being reviewed by multiple people with a common set of questions. So starting with the SDG analysis. In this moving image, you can see the cumulative occurrences of terms relating to each of the SDGs, starting in 2008 and up to 2021 in Italy. This is an additive demonstration of the focus that the G20 has had on the various SDGs over time. The picture is dominated by SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, which of course is no surprise, bearing in mind the initial G20 priorities. I've removed SG 8 from this next slide so that you can see a bit more clearly the movement across the other 16 goals. So this is the same information presented again, just excluding SDG 8. You can see how over time, different topics become more prominent, and you can see the variations across all of the goals. We went one step further to look at each of the SDGs individually. I'd like to look at SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. Unsurprisingly, there is a consistent and strong focus on this SDG. And what looks like a reduction in focus from 2016 isn't. It just reflects the increased balance of attention across a wider group of topics. We also observe the reactive increased focus from significant global events, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is directly why you see this increase in SDG 3, good health and well-being. There are no surprises with these two examples. For this next slide, I'd like to show an example of an emerging topic, SDG 5, gender equality. Like many of the broader topics, it has seen a sharp increase in attention since 2017 and remained in focus despite extraordinary challenges through the pandemic in the last 2 years. I do find 2017 an interesting year, the year in which Germany held the presidency. When reading the outputs from that year, it felt bolder, more diverse, and felt like a step change in leadership from the G20 leaders on some really important topics, including women's empowerment and safeguarding against health crises. So here I've summarised the whole picture. And you can see 3 clear groupings. Those areas that have some consistency through the years. Many areas with increasing focus. And 6 areas at the bottom with relatively little attention from a G20 perspective. I'll let you spend a moment looking at that slide. It paints an interesting picture, but I share this without criticism or judgment. It raises for me some questions. I wonder what the shape would look like if the collaboration was between the developing nations rather than the G20. I wonder what the level of consciousness is about these choices. The second area of analysis was the qualitative review of the G20 declarations to look at expressed values. There is a set of consistently referenced values that are enduring and present in almost every year. Stability, resilience, inclusion, and multilateralism. I've captured some of the evidence points as examples for this insight, and there are many more. These 4 stood out across the years as enduring values, ever present and therefore key to G20 and their current culture. Furthermore, we looked at what emerges as new values from year to year. And here are some of the examples. Some of the examples of these dynamic values showing the year in which they appeared. I'm particularly drawn to balance, to care, and to global responsibility, as I can really sense the importance of these values. In our deliberations, boldness also appeared as a value that we saw emerging in an implied manner, not explicitly written, but implied in the sentiment. And felt that this could well be of great importance for G20 to achieve more pace and impact. These are not suggested values for G20. These are values that we observe are and have been present over the years. To bring my concluding points together, is being values-driven the next evolution of the G20? The scope of the G20 has broadened from initially being focused heavily on financial stability and growth to recognising the need for good governance. More recently, G20 has expanded its focus, especially following the launch of the UN SDGs, to cover topics that really get to the heart of enabling quality of life for all. Whether that's topics that are more people-centred or relate to the sustainability of our planet. As the agenda grows and as challenges become more complex and diverse, so does the need to collaborate and collaborate more effectively. To enable that greater level of collaboration, I'd like to bring us back to the types of cooperation I introduced earlier. On the left hand is the most basic form, where cooperation is limited to decision alignment. At the opposite end of the spectrum is values-based cooperation, where collaboration takes place in an environment, in a culture of deep understanding of what's important to all parties. This level of cultural development is happening everywhere, in teams, organisations, and even whole nations. Being more values aware and then using that knowledge and shared understanding to nurture a culture into the right direction for successful outcomes to be achieved. I see evidence all the time that countless organisations and institutions have taken similar approaches. We looked at Axis Origin as an example earlier. We also heard about Bank Mandiri earlier in the session. At a national level, we talked about Indonesia and their recent national values assessment. Many other countries have followed a similar path, with some even measuring character as well as values. G20 have the opportunity to take this approach at a global level, to shift the dial to the right, to take a leadership position as a highly respected institution and evolve to the next level that enables even more effective collaboration to meet the challenges that lie ahead. We have suggested some very specific next steps to accelerate the progress of G20, and we very much welcome the opportunity to discuss these in more detail at the right time with the right stakeholders. The range of proposed activities split across the V20 as an enabling body, the local G20 team in Indonesia, and of course G20 as a whole through the Sherpas. We see an opportunity ahead for G20 to lead the way in truly being values-driven, to operate in an environment where there is agreement on common values, there is clarity on unique values across nations, and there is understanding on the values of difference, the things that could get in the way. Operating at this level of deep understanding enables a powerful connection between parties, creating the conditions for the best form of collaboration, for authenticity, and ultimately the achievement of successful outcomes in a world that is increasingly complex, yet connected. Values bring us together and make those connections even stronger for the benefit of all life. Thank you. Terima kasih. I'll hand back to the facilitator, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela, for your presentation. You may please be seated on stage, Pamela, because we're going to continue with the question and answer session. Thank you. And for this Q&A session, I would like to invite on stage, to be on stage once again, Professor Christoph Dembeck. Also, we'd like to invite Alisa Wahid as the Sherpa V20 2022. Can we give them a round of applause, everyone? Okay, we have collected a couple of questions that the committee has gathered here. The first question is from Angela. Why do you think that values is even more important today in the society, especially global society? Care to elaborate, please? Pamela, would you like to answer this one?
Yes, thank you. I'll go first with that question. I think Dr. Ghazi summarised this really nicely earlier on in the session, where he talked about different levels of values understanding, because it starts with us individually as unique human beings. Our values are always there, most of them develop in our younger years, and they often don't change very much. And if you think about how we work, how we do business, how we make connections and develop our families, it's just lots of human interactions. So naturally there's a progression of taking our own values and understanding how they impact in those different situations, whether it's with our families or whether it's at work in a team or an organisation. And I think the really interesting for G20 is this is such a much more complex environment to bring a group of people from very different nations and very different cultures together. So I think it feels like a natural step for more globally connected people to be answering this very question.
Thank you, Pamela. Pak Chris, would you like to add to that question?
Yes, sure. I think two things only that I would add. One, what we have always seen, values are basically basic building blocks for our behavior through being lens through which we assess what is of value to us. So there are two concepts, value and values, that are different but interrelated in a way where we actually use values as a lens to decide what is of value to us, and that drives our behavior. And why it is particularly important today is because we are facing unprecedented challenges where we actually have to change our behavior.
Okay, terima kasih Pak Chris. Next question would be for Ibu Alisa. Values are different in different cultures. That is the huge challenge. How do you think that this movement will work globally with those differences of culture? It's from Steve.
Okay, thank you. In the case of Indonesia, I would take Indonesia as an example. We know that we have different ethnic groups, we have different religions and backgrounds, but we are connected through this idea of Indonesia. There is no original Indonesia in Indonesia. Indonesia is an idea that binds people from different backgrounds into one nation, right? So this unity in diversity is to celebrate the diversity, but at the same time to bind us together. So if we can take this into a global landscape, the case would be the same. We would have respect to each individual local wisdom and values, but at the same time we can work together, decide on what values that we would take as guidance. Like again, no one left behind as a mental model means this is a shared value. The shared values are inclusivity and justice. And that is to make sure that every living creature on earth would get their respective rights and responsibility also. So I'm always a firm believer that there are universal values and there are shared values that we just need to decide upon. Like in a family, you know, we decide that this is going to be the family values, and we would guide our lives around these values.
Great, very empowering answer. Thank you. Terima kasih Ibu Pamela, Pak Chris, Ibu Alisa for your time. You may please return to your seats. Boleh kita berikan tepuk tangan, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, participants, we are going to enjoy a series of presentation from our partners who share similar vibrant energy in making V20 the conversation starter. So for the speakers, due to time restriction, limited of time, we would like to have your time to be limited at 5 minutes. Thank you for your cooperation. Let's begin with our first speaker, Bapak Asis Arman, the Vice President Director and Group CEO of Indica Energy, who are doing his presentation virtually from Jakarta.
evening for those who are in Bali. Hi from Jakarta. Let me introduce myself, Aziz Arman, as Vice President Director and Group CEO of Indica Energy. And for those who are not familiar with Indica Energy is a leading diversified investment company with key focus on developing new and more sustainable businesses through its strategic investment in the areas of energy, logistics and infrastructures, minerals, digital ventures, and a number of green-based businesses. While providing energy has been our core, since 3 years ago, we have redefined ourselves and expanding our purpose, not just energy as a word, but energy as a active verb, which is energizing the people of Indonesia through a wider spectrum of the utmost integrity, trustworthiness, and professionalism. And beyond energy, Indica Energy will make contribution to the environment, community, and society to continuously serve the nation. And with that new purpose, we have set our aspiration, the long-term aspiration really to achieve a net zero emission by 2050, with an intermediate target of more balanced revenue contribution from coal and non-coal sectors by 2025. And so Indica Energy, in essence, is in the transition. Next slide, please. From what we have currently today in the left-hand side, which involve energy resources, energy services, and energy infrastructures, to a future of Indica Energy with an intention to unlock sustainable development in Indonesia, focusing on logistic infrastructure, as I said earlier, minerals, nature-based or green-based solution, digital ventures, and others. Looking at this transition, these new sectors, we, Indica Energy, as an investment holding company with a number of operating subsidiaries in different sectors, we are cognizant of different cultures in different sectors, in different companies, which have totally, which is required by the specific sector requirement. However, we in Indica Energy believe that one set of values is required really as a fundamental, or to be the fundamental of everything, of why we exist, of what we do, and why we do things we do. So this is the importance of values in Indica Energy. And we have defined our values in 6 categories. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, one being, let me just describe it. One being unity in diversity, UN, integrity, teamwork, agility, assessment, and social responsibility. So these 6 are, we like to call it unitas, which in Latin means unity. And we have defined its value in order for us to be able to reflect or to represent our behavior, our way of doing things in the company. And these values are required, in our view, in order for us to achieve our purpose, which is, again, we energize Indonesia for a sustainable future. And the next few slides, I share with you all how we practice our values in our companies, and we have the key ESG initiative being the focus in the past few years in environmental, in the area of renewable energy and waste management, in the area of social. We have the woman-to-woman mentoring in engineering, and then in the governance, we have we have a comprehensive review of our ESG policy to ensure that we have our boundaries in terms of how we do things. As a closure, I'd like to share here that we are also part of a network by joining or acting as a signatory in the UN Global Compact, as well as a member of Indonesian Business Council for Sustainable Development. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Bapak Aziz Arman, the Vice President Director and Group CEO of Indica Energy, for sharing Indica's values. Continuing to our second speaker, Charles Fowler, the coordinator of World Values Day, who is also doing his presentation virtually from UK.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, even virtually, and to tell you a little bit about World Values Day. World Values Day has been a partner of V20 since V20 started, and we're very, very excited by the collaboration. World Values Day takes place at more or less the same time as V20, or it did so in the previous 2 years. This year it's going to take place on exactly the same time. World Values Day is an annual event. It takes place this year on the 20th of October, and we run through till the 21st. So it's a perfect fit for V20 and the Values Festival that V20 is going to be organizing out of Bali to go with it. So we're very excited to be working even more closely this year. World Values Day is an annual celebration and exploration and a sharing of values around the world. And it, can I have the next slide, please? It's based on values, it's exploring values, and it's based on the assumption that, and the knowledge that we all have values, whether we know it or not. And all those values, not just those people here today, but people all around the world have fantastic values. Next slide. I just want to show you, next slide, please. Yeah, that's it. I want to show you, this is from the United States, the values survey that they did, the values assessment they did there in 2009, 2011, but it's very similar all the way around the world. In Indonesia too, you had your values survey a couple of years ago. And it's clear from that people most people have really good, positive, pro-social values. Whether or not they know about them, that's another matter, but they when asked in a survey like this, they have fantastic values. But the real problem is, and this is the big problem with the whole of the values field. Turn to the next slide, please. The big problem is that those values are not expressed, they're not practiced for lots of reasons. And when the same people that are surveyed about their own personal values are asked about the values of the society that they're in, the culture of the society they're in, they come out with all these words. Their personal values may be caring and honesty and respect and compassion, but when they're asked about the society they live in, wherever they are in the world, it's pretty much the same. They come out with words like this, words like corruption, bureaucracy, blame, violence, conflict. That's the United States, but it's the same pretty much everywhere. Next slide, please. So what's going on here? What's happening? Something is stopping us putting our values into action, and that's really where world values begins to come in. The biggest problem is our own cynicism and our own negativity. We actually think that our values are good, but other people don't have good values, and that's really the big barrier holding us back. It's this total misunderstanding. The research shows us that almost all of us, have good values. But the research also shows us that we don't believe other people have good values. And that's a total misunderstanding, which is at the root of a lot of the problems we have. So what to do about it? Next slide. What we want to do about it really is World Values Day. It's our answer to this big dysfunction, this issue about people having values themselves but believing other people don't have it. So we want to have a celebration every year where people can come together, think about their values, talk about their values, show their values, and share their values with other people, and try and get rid of that big dysfunctional problem to do with their misunderstanding about other people. Right, so I'm just having a little technical problem here, not to worry. So in 2016, we launched World Values Day, and it's been a fantastic success since then. We get to, through social media, which is a big vehicle for us, we get to reach a lot of people around the world, up to 75 million people in over 100 countries. Actually, that's just on one of our social media channels alone, Twitter. So the real figure is a lot higher. And we, next slide, please. And we have a huge number of activities that we participate in. There are thousands of organizations taking part, all sorts of hospitals, schools, NGOs, businesses, offices, factories, universities, you name it. They're taking part, big organizations internationally and small businesses. The big organizations are of the likes of PwC, have been fantastic supporters since we started, Volvo, IBM in Southeast Asia. San Miguel has been a big supporter for years. Big organizations, big network organizations like Rotary too. So, and we have all sorts of events and activities that they take part in. A lot of them do private events and activities, but a lot of them take part in public events and activities. And here are a few of them. If you turn to the next page, please. Next slide. Just to mention a few of them. We have an all-day online program of events that we started at the beginning of COVID, beginning of the epidemic, and for the whole of the day, running from New Zealand at the beginning of the day, all through the time zones around the world, we have events and activities. Last year, it was about 40 of them taking place back to back and sometimes side by side. With some big organizations, including PwC and others, we put together a 1-hour values challenge, which we run every year. That's for organizations to take part in. It's a 1-hour refresher of values. We have a big schools program this year. We've got it bigger than ever, where we offer lots of ready-packed, ready-made opportunities for schools to take part in. We have, this year, we're starting a local community leader outreach program where we're going to be asking community leaders around the world, including elected ones, what their values are and how they put them into action in their community, and how that could be a lesson for all of us, including the G20 leaders. And of course, as I said, this year we're linking up with the V20 movement in a very, very close way, and we'll be hopefully integrating into our all-day program. We'll be integrating the events from the V20 Summit and the Values Festival, and we'll be integrating other aspects of our programs and social media activities in a close way. So it's very exciting. I really love it if you could all join in. Last slide, please. Yeah, that's great. And actually, we'll go to the final slide, if I may. I'd love it if many of you as you can join in, take part. It's huge fun. It's very powerful, very energizing. You'll love it, and we'll have a really great time. But above all, we'll be spreading the word on values, that it isn't that other people do have good values. Your next door neighbor, the people in the next country, the people around the other side of the world, we all have these wonderful values, and we practice them together on World Values Day and hopefully around the rest of the year as well. So thank you very much indeed, Melissa. Back to you.
Thank you, Charles Fowler. Good luck for your World Values Day coming this October. All right, our third speaker is the CEO of Pemimpin.id, and he will be joining us virtually as well. So please welcome Darmaji Suradika.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Darmaji Suradika, the CEO of Pemimpin.id. Pemimpin.id is a leadership learning platform who has the main mission to make leadership ecosystem in Indonesia better. So, yeah, maybe can you help me, President? Yes. Okay, so next slide, please. Yes, it's around about 100 years ago, there was a living room in Indonesia, in small village in Surabaya, who has very good value inside the house. Actually, the house is just a simple house and nothing special within the house, but the people who live here who make it special. The owner of the house is Mr. Cokro Aminoto. He was the leader of one of the biggest community in Indonesia back then, Sarekat Islam. And Sarekat Islam has a members like more than 2 million members. And also inside this house, our first president, Sukarno, also started to learn to lead. Besides Sukarno, there were also Musso, the head of Indonesian Communist Party, and also Kartosuwiryo, the head of Islamic party back then. So how can the small house, normal house, can make these three ideologies live together and stay together? Next, please. Next slide, please. According to our observation, there are five principles for living in this house. The first is egalitarian, meaning everybody will be treated the same. You are coming from the normal level, or maybe you are coming from noble family, will be treated the same within this house. The second one is neutral. Ideology, no matter your ideology is, you can come to this house and discuss your ideology. The third one is sharing. So the sharing meaning from the mentor to the mentee, and also among the mentee, everybody can share their knowledge and can learn from everybody. The fourth value is empowering. So sharing meaning to empower others, not only in house, but also to all the Indonesian people outside the house. And the last but not least is this nationalism. So meaning all the discussion inside this house is all about Indonesia and how to make Indonesia independent. Next, please. So we also observe there are at least three roles within the house. The first role is the mentor, who are willing to share. And the second one is the young leader, who are willing to learn and who are willing to spread the knowledge to the other young people. And the third one is the volunteer, the executor, and the followers. So meaning the people who make this transfer knowledge come true. So meaning, next slide, please. So Pemimpin.id have a dream to recreate, to reactivate this golden triangle and want to transfer it to the young Indonesian people. We try to activate these three role, and also we transform the 5 value that I explained before to 3 main value that we think relevant to the current Indonesian youth. The first one, inclusive. Inclusive meaning leadership for everyone. Everybody can be a leader, and everybody can, sorry, I think I have a internet problem. Okay. Yeah, so inclusive meaning leadership for everyone. Everybody can be a leader, and leadership can be learned by everybody. The second value is effective. We want to grow the leader who can effectively solve the problem of Indonesia. The leader who can give the solution, not only speak louder, but also can make action. The third one, we want to grow leader who not only think about themselves, but who can put society, humanity, and nation to be the main focus in their life. As our founding father Muhammad Hatta said, Leiden is leading, meaning leading is suffering. So meaning if we don't put the country in the first priority, meaning we don't live. Next slide, please. With this value, next. So how we transfer this value to the young people? We have 3 pillars. The first one, we train the young people with the learning program. Until now, we have 3,000, more than 3,000 alumni. And also, we spread the leadership knowledge through media and event. Until now, we have more than 220,000 social media followers. And also, we connect all leaders across Indonesia through community. Next, please. Until now, Pemimpin.id has more than 550,000 beneficiaries. And at the end of this year, we hope that we can have more than 1 million beneficiaries. We become one of the biggest leadership community in Indonesia with more than 15,000 active users. Next, please. To close my presentation, Ki Hajar Dewantoro once said he was our education heroes. He said the independent humankind, meaning they are free to decide and choose what is the best for them with full of awareness without any restraint from anyone, including themselves. And in Indonesia, meaning manusia merdeka adalah ketika semua manusia tersebut mampu mengambil keputusan yang terbaik untuk dirinya secara sadar dan tanpa tekanan dari manapun, termasuk dari dirinya sendiri. So meaning leadership is one of the main value to have truly freedom society. Thank you for the attention.
Very inspiring young leader. Thank you, Darmaji Suradika. Continuing our event is our 4th speaker, Dr. Rizal Lukman, B20 Sherpa.
Value 20 Co-Sherpa, Value 20 Founding Circle, fellow speakers, participants, government officials, business participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking the Value 20 for organizing this wonderful gathering to capture the current perspective of leading experts across major topics, such as expressing their views on how we as a collective can push through in creating secure, purposeful, value-driven business to work a conscious and ethical work together. In my capacity as the Business 20 Sherpa of Indonesia, I am pleased to present the core importance of what makes meaningful economic and national development. We are honored to be invited to expand the work made by the Value 20 within the business sector. Esteemed participants, while globalization and liberalization have reduced the global inequalities over the last few years, and progress has been made towards ending extreme poverty and hunger, the pandemic has exposed persisting disparities in our socio-economic systems. We need to realize that to have a well, just, and orderly economic growth, the process of seeking profit can no longer be the sole attention of businesses. What needs to be upheld is how businesses and private sectors can create and maintain the positive impact it brings to people. In this new era, a just, meaningful economic system is to be based on how it is value-driven and people-centered. The meaning goes beyond the paradox of ownership and consumption. It goes beyond the one-dimensional view of economics and our focus on gross domestic product or GDP. When I was invited to speak here, there are three ways how the B20 defines a meaningful economic development. Allow me to share them with you. First, valuable economy must put people at its center of gravity. The dynamic of our global economy is more unprecedented, with a strong emphasis on how to provide benefits for a larger community. Throughout my years of professional and business experience, the economic activity must put people at the top priorities, adding the relevant values into it. As outlined in the theme, Valuenomics, it promotes a value-driven economy that focuses on value of the people's well-being with their business processes. This actually can be shown by how companies can protect or demonstrate social capital, for instance, through ethical supply chains that pay a fair price for commodities or which protect workers' rights, or maybe providing educational opportunities that build human capital, or also by developing local infrastructure. These actions may put the company in a better position to engage with stakeholders such as governments and regulators and differentiate their products from other competitors. In most cases, I have seen companies who have put people at its center will be more sustained and positively regarded by the society. Second, it must be inclusive to be valuably impactful. These days, companies who are targeting emerging and developing markets are increasingly finding that inclusive business models with operations and products that target the bottom of the pyramid in these economies can access large market and deliver goods and services while still increasing the welfare of the most vulnerable. The reason is in most and almost all developing economies, fair economic distribution is key to sustainable growth, leaving nobody marginalized in terms of access to prosperity. Furthermore, once businesses and organizations are able to implement a meaningful economic process and it is value-driven, it is also important to make sure that these objectives are those which support the measures toward an inclusive, equitable, and balanced economic growth, recognizing different development levels that exist. This refers to bringing actual positive impact to the most marginalized, where women, youth, and workers with lower education suffered the highest cost. Businesses must start applying an inclusive business model that seeks to create value for low-income communities by integrating them into companies' value chain on the demand side as clients and consumers. Third, meaningful means friendly toward the environment. With that in mind, it is also deemed important that businesses must stay in line with how their activities have a valuable impact, not just to the society and people, but also ensuring it is environmentally friendly. The latest research is clear: to avoid the worst climate impact, global greenhouse emissions will need to drop by half by 2030 and reach net zero around mid-century. Many countries and governments have come up with the ambitious goals and solutions, yet they cannot work alone. Businesses and all parts of society must go hand in hand to help create a greener world. Considering this urgency, a rapidly growing number of national governments, local governments, business leaders, and making commitment to reach net zero emissions with their jurisdictions or business, including among the G20 countries. Today, to achieve meaningful economy and concrete national development, we businesses must foresee sustainability not merely as corporate responsibility action, but solely as strategic imperative, shifting the focus from not only business efficiency, but also toward innovation that create sustainable value. Ladies and gentlemen, as the host of the G20 presidency, Indonesia has the opportunity to build a stronger international movement on economic inequality. Being the Sherpa for B20 Indonesia, I'm here to inform you that we should seize the strategic momentum provided by this presidency, not only in terms of the economic recovery, but also in making substantial policy recommendations with other G20 countries that will support the collective resilient global economy. B20 Indonesia, with the 6 task force and 1 action council, plan to raise the concrete and actionable policy recommendation that aims to tackle specific priorities based on the 3 main topics set by the President, which are inclusive global healthcare architecture, digital-based transformation, and transition to sustainable energy. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I urge the business community to recognize the significant importance and urgency to collaborate in creating a just and orderly economic development for all. I'm humbly inviting all stakeholders here and also Value 20 to keep promoting the value-based economy to the G20 governments. I appreciate to all for taking your time to listen to these remarks, and herewith I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And last but not least, our 5th speaker, who is also will be greeting us online. Please welcome Bapak Solihin J. Kala, President Director Kala Group.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all of you guys, to G20 Advisory Board, and also to all values believers who attend this G20 event here in Bali and online. Please excuse my surrounding because I'm in the middle of one of the biggest project here in West Sumatra, which is a green energy and sustainability energy, which is the hydroelectric power plants here in western part of Indonesia. So today I would like to share the value-based practices in Kala that we believe are the key success of Kala's 70th year of existence in here in Indonesia. Kala was founded Kala was founded in 1952 by a couple named Haji Kala and Haji Atira, which are they are my grandparents, and they started the business in textile trade, which later, due to the demand of logistics and movement of people in eastern part of Indonesia, they expanded the business to the transportation sector, by providing an intercity bus. So this year, Kala will celebrate its 70th anniversary, led by the third generation of the family, and has evolved into the largest national company in eastern part of Indonesia with over 4,000 employees. Next, please. These are our 5 fundamental corporate values, which are the expansion of each letter of our company names, KALLA. K is for kerja ibadah, which is work as worship in English. A for apresiasi pelanggan, or customer appreciation. L is lebih cepat, and the second L is lebih baik, which is the faster the better. And lastly, A is for aktif bersama, which is active together in English. Next, please. All of the Kala values were formulated and implemented by the founders of Kala. All the leaders before me has their own values, which is kerja ibadah from Haji Kala, apresiasi pelanggan from his wife, lebih cepat lebih baik is from Mr. Yusuf Kala, and aktif bersama is from our leader, the third generation leader, which is Mrs. Fatima Kala. But until the leadership of Mr. Yusuf Kala, these 5 values were yet to be implemented as our corporate values. Instead, they were used solely as a set of expected behaviors that are highly encouraged by the founders and the leaders of the company. So before, these values are unwritten, but until the leadership of Mr. Fatima, these values were formalized into corporate values. And nowadays, under my leadership, we further strengthen these corporate values by activating and implementing corporate culture, so that all behaviors of Insan Kala, what we call the people of Kala, are based on those 5 values, with a more structured measurement and activation initiative that can allow us to achieve the KPI of the company. And it is also important to share with you that every leadership, whether is it national or global ones, fortunately, we have always been able to survive, and each crisis that we have gone through as a company allowed us to grow even stronger. So thanks to our values. And today, Kala Group has celebrated its 70th anniversary and continues to evolve with our 4,000 staff members, which we believe is large as the outcome of consistent implementation of Kala values. And in the next slide, to help the internalization of Kala values, we have gone beyond making these values as fundamental part of the Kala management system, which translates into all regulation, policies, and strategies being strictly grounded on those 5 Kala values. Departing from these values, we have also developed 8 key behaviors that are measurable and have been used as the key criteria in our recruitment process and to conduct our annual staff performance evaluation. For the next slide, I think we going to cut the slide after this, and these are some examples of the Kala Group corporate culture activation initiatives that are, of course, anchored on all 5 of our Kala values. So to conclude, we jump into the next one. The next one. And now you all might wonder what are the tangible outcomes, the impacts of all the culture activation initiatives. Well, we could see the results within 3 different aspects. Revenue increase during the COVID, during 2020 and 2021, we didn't fall too far compared to other national companies. We even could bounce back higher than before. The employee satisfaction index that is constantly climbing up, and the continuous improvement of the organization culture health index. So we jump to last please. Next one. Next one. So by implementing Kala values, not only within the office sphere, but more importantly, within each of our staff's personal life, insan Kala or the people of Kala is hoped to be an individual is better, stronger, and ready to face the global challenge. Thank you for your time. Hopefully, as a community that believes in importance of values, we could all be successfully facing the challenges ahead by putting values at the main center of all our activities. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Solihin J. Kala, President Director Kala Group. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to this room. We will welcome on stage one more time the V20 2022 Co-Sherpa Alisa Wahid, who will be addressing what's next for V20 2022, whom will be continued by the online presence of Gauri Ishwaran from India, the Vice Chair of Global Education and Leadership Foundation, giving us a glimpse of V20 2023. So now, please welcome Ibu Alisa on stage.
For short people, this is going to be a challenge. Can you see me? Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of V20 2022 organizer, I would like to thank you for your contribution today. We hope to engage you further in our effort to campaign for a value-driven world. Currently, we have around 80 experts from diverse backgrounds working to prepare V20 communique, and we plan to present it in the V20 Summit. The summit will be held at our iconic Green School in Bali, in Ubud. Yay! On October 20th and 21st, 2022, with a diverse program celebrating values and also launching the communique. So the V20 2022 organizer would like to invite you all to join us in presenting the V20 communique to the G20 stage. Let us join hands to deepen our values so that the world can recover together, recover stronger, pulih lebih cepat, pulih lebih kuat. Thank you.
And we'll be connected online to Gauri Ishwaran from India, the Vice Chair of the Global Education and Leadership Foundation, giving us a glimpse of V20 2023.
Hello, everybody. I'm delighted that I'll be able to introduce to you the ideas that we have in mind for G20 and V20, which will be hosted by India in the year 2023. As one of our fellow founders, Pamela, emphasized, there's a deep linkage between G20 agenda as reflected in the language of the G20 leaders' declarations. We in India are committed to strengthen the endeavors of V20 and develop impactful policy recommendations influencing the G20 countries to underpin their policy decisions based on universal and enduring values. In this context, many of the speakers today have spoken about innumerable values that are revered around the world. But one of the most important values that I think we need to concentrate on in today's world of conflict and aggression is the value to respect differences. In pursuing the endurance of universal values, we also take on and understand the Indonesian value of gotong royong, that is on collaboration, and we would like to increase the depth of what they mean by adding the Indian values of non-violence, of dialogue, and Satyameva Jayate, which means truth shall prevail. We would like these values to underpin the policy decisions that will be taken by the G20 countries, because as Madam Alisa just mentioned, unless we have a value-driven world, there will not be peace and equity and justice. Now, India's G20 priorities are envisioned to cover the areas of education, entrepreneurship, and environment. We wanted to look at sustainable development for all, looking at a human-centric approach, equitable and resilient growth, environment, our lifestyles to sustain the environment so that it can protect life on earth, and also the importance of multilateral partnerships, which is where the value of respecting differences is extremely important. Now, raising awareness about education, entrepreneurship, and environment as well can only be achieved through two dimensions. One is through the government's legal policies and their implementation. The second is how do the citizenry of the world work on this? For this, we need to work on behavioral change across the planet, keeping in mind the universal and enduring values that have been passed down to us over generations. One of the fundamental changes that we have to look at is how do we impart education? Education that will foster values and ethics in children, so that tomorrow we have a whole young generation of change makers who will make decisions and make choices based on values. Without that, without our investing in the young, I don't think we can move forward. As Marisa and Stefano have already mentioned, education, apart from education, entrepreneurship is equally important. If we are going to look at reducing global unemployment, if you want to bring up an equitable and just society, then entrepreneurship is something that needs to be studied, encouraged, and moved forward. And again, that will be part of the value system that we are speaking about. Last but not the least, for humanity to survive, we need to take care of our environment. If you want to achieve the UN Sustainable Goals, it cannot be done unless we underpin all our decisions, be it education, be it entrepreneurship, be it environment, unless we underpin this all with the basic values that we have inherited from our forefathers. The V20 can play a very important role by recommending to the G20 countries and maybe others that they should develop policy frameworks and implement those legislative actions that take into account the environment, the climate change, and preserving our flora and fauna. I hope that as V20 grows, it started in Saudi Arabia, moved to Italy, now to Indonesia, and next year to India. As it grows, it becomes a forum that is able to impact the policy decisions taken by various countries, policy decisions that are rooted in values. Thank you very much, and I welcome all of you to please join us next year in 2023 when V20 and G20 moves to India. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Gauri Ishwaran from India, and terima kasih Ibu Alisa Wahid. Berikutnya, ladies and gentlemen, next the committee would like to present a token of appreciation to the speakers who are here with us today. Therefore, I'm inviting these names to be on stage one more time. Okay, so please welcome back on stage Professor Christoph Dembeck. We would like to invite back on stage Pamela Doherty, and then Mas Diki Herlambang, Dr. Asif Chowdhury, and of course Ibu Alisa Wahid. Boleh kita berikan tepuk tangan untuk para speakers kami. Let's give them the warmest round of applause. And we would like now to invite the giver of the token of appreciation, the co-chairs of V20. So please welcome on stage Ibu Meike Malaon. Hai Ibu Meike. And also Bapak Yuri Yogaswara to join Ibu Meike. Kita berikan tepuk tangan sekali lagi untuk menyambut para givernya. Dan juga kami mohon kehadiran Ibu Dr. Vivi Yulaswati bersama dengan Ibu Meike dan Pak Yuri untuk memberikan tanda cinta kepada para speaker kami. Oke. Silahkan Bapak dan Ibu. Dan hadirin sekalian, ladies and gentlemen, while we're watching the procession of presenting the love from the committee to our speakers, we would like to remind you to stay in this room because the event is not ended yet, because we have prepared a very special performance, a beautiful, beautiful performance to delight our day. I'm so looking forward to this performance because I've been watching them attentively at the backstage and they're very excited to meet all of you. So please stay until the end of the event. And also, I would like to inform all of you, we are pleased to invite all G20 Development Working Group delegates to attend a networking dinner, another side event tonight on advancing inclusive digital transformation and collaboration through a quintet of capabilities. The dinner will be held tonight at 6:30 p.m. at Sofitel Hotel. This invitation is dedicated to all the delegates of G20 DWG, and the shuttle transfer is available for the DWG delegates. We'll be departing from the BNDCC at the lobby at 6 p.m. So please join us if you can. Thank you. All right. Can we give them another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Here are the speakers, the co-chairs, the committee of V20 today. please remain on stage. They're still taking the picture. Okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you may please return to your seats. Thank you. Okay, so as Ibu Alisa said, that we will have another upcoming event, which is the V20 Summit, which will take place at Green School Bali on the 20th and the 21st of October 2022. So please join us. We're inviting all of you to come, to be there, to experience the values that we've been talking about this year. And then register early. So make yourself available for that and keep continuing to support V20 whenever you are, wherever you are. Keep the values conversation going. And on behalf of V20, we want to thank you. We deeply appreciate your presence and energy. May what we do together will have impacts for generations to come. And now please welcome Ibu Ni Putu Tirka Widanti, Ketua Yayasan Kulkul of Green School, to share a brief background on Green School. And she will be followed by this beautiful performance of Kulkul dance from Green School community. Silakan Ibu.
Terima kasih Mbak Melisa cantik. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tirka Widanti. I'm the president of Yayasan Kulkul Green School Bali. I'm also rector for the university, Universitas Ngurah Rai. Values give our life quality and meaning. Values are the things that are most important to us as individuals and as communities. More than material possessions, awards, and titles, values, and the real richness to our lives. Values are also central to development and humanity as a whole. Values and how we live them dictates whether or not we will be an asset of humanity and to the planet. Now is the time to embrace a value-based education. One of the fastest growing changes in the education sector is values-based learning. And this means a pedagogical approach that is more holistic and more relevant to the world of today. And parents, school teachers, leaders, and governments around the world are pushing for this change, and for good reason. It is well understood that one of the soundest principles of pedagogy is to focus on the development of the whole child. And by definition, a holistic education incorporates the development of values. It is the education of the whole person. The intellectual, physical, social, emotional, ethical, and academic. At Green School Bali, education helps the child to see and understand the bigger context and the world they're in. They begin by knowing themselves, then they start to know others, their community, their local environment, and the global context. As children grow, their circle of learning grows from local, national to global. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you all to the V20 Summit at Green School Bali. V20 Summit at Green School Bali on the 20th and 21st October 2022. And now, please enjoy Kulkul Dan, Tari Kulkul, by Green School students and teachers. Thank you.
Terima kasih Ibu Putu Tirka, Suksma, Butu. A round of applause for Cool Cool Dance from Green School, Bali. Beautiful, beautiful performance. So, ladies and gentlemen, the dancers are taking their final bow. With this dance, we have come to the end of our event today. Again, we want to thank you on behalf of the committee. Don't forget the dinner tonight, which will be held at the Sofitel Hotel. The bus will leave BNDCC at 6 p.m. at the lobby. The dinner will start at 6:30 p.m. And of course, we would like to see all of you being with us in the Green School Ubud on the 20th and 21st of October 2022 for the V20 Summit. So I'm Melissa Karim. Thank you for your energy, beautiful energy today. Thank you.
you with a look back at the highlights of a remarkable decade that has changed Australia forever.
The 2020s began in extraordinary fashion.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today.
Imagine there's no countries.
It isn't hard to do. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and run this Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Yeah.